people. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. I am here to talk to you because it has been a full year. Yes, it has been a full year since I left my 9 to 5 to take the leap and start working for my side business full time. And I wanted to jump on here and tell you what I have learned since leaving my 9 to 5 in my 1 full year of entrepreneurship. So, one of the things that I learned is that it's not as hard as it seems. And so, what I mean by that is for years, like the last couple of years of my job, I was like, you know what, I probably should take the leap and do the work in my in my side business full time because, I really just desire to see where this will take me. And I kept thinking that it would be too hard to do it. And the reason I thought it would be too hard to do it is because a lot of times, at least me, I'm always thinking about, okay, financially, how can I make sure I sustain myself? How do I know I'll have the business that I need to be able to sustain myself in my everyday life without, securely feeling like I got this check that comes every 2 weeks. So that is what held me back for so long. And I don't think it's wrong. I think that we need to know that we're going to be financially secure so that we can move forward, especially if we're not living in a dual income household or if we're not being taken care of by our spouse financially. We need to be able to feel really financially secure. And so me, myself, I'm single. And so I'm like, you know what? I had a dual income household situation happening. And so I needed to make sure I felt very secure about, knowing that income was going to come in. So that's what kept me from doing it. But what helped is before I actually left my full-time job, I was still doing work in my side business, and I was able to make $79,000 while working full-time. And I did that through doing consulting work, coaching work, speaking outside of my full-time job. And so when I did that, it proved to myself like, okay, Desiree, you can do this. If you can make close to what your full-time salary is and you can do it while working full-time, imagine what you would be able to do if you actually left your full-time job and started doing this on your own. What would you be able to create then? And so that is what encouraged me to leap. So the first thing that I want to say is what I learned is that it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be hard. I think the biggest thing is actually knowing what it is that you need to have to feel secure about leaving your full-time job. When you know what you need to do to feel secure, then it'll be easier for you to leave. Financially, if you feel secure, then it's actually easier to take the leap and play around with what your revenue income can be. But if you don't have that financial security, I would not leave my full-time job. That is my opinion. I would not leave my full-time job if I didn't have that financial security. I would see what I can do full-time and in my side business before leaving. You have to have something to help you know that it is worth the return on investment. And so I did that. And so that gave me the courage and the confidence to be able to walk away, knowing that, hey, if I walk away, I'm able to accumulate $79,000 on my side business. Imagine what I can do in my full-time business. So this year, in my first year of being an entrepreneur, not my first year of being an entrepreneur, let me draw back. I have a 20-year nonprofit, so I have been an entrepreneur, but most of the time that I've been an entrepreneur, I've also had a full-time job. So this is the third round of me taking a leap and leaving my job to be able to do my full-time entrepreneurship. So fast forward. So now that I decided to do it this year, I'm saying that the thing that I know helped me the most is knowing that I can make that. And so this year I've been able to do it and match my salary. So last year when I was still working full-time and having my side business, I didn't match my salary, but I got pretty close. But this year I've been able to match my salary, and I'm like, yes! Being able to match my salary feels so good. It feels like I have definitely, accomplished something that I didn't know was possible, especially because I had so many things that occurred over the year. I lost a very close family member, so that caused me not to do as much work. And so I thought that I wasn't going to be able to meet my goal because I took some time for myself and with my family. But I still was able to do that. And honestly, I did it doing way less work than working full time. And what I realized, this is the other thing that I've learned, is that not only is not as hard as we think. The other part is, I think most of the reasons that people are burnt out as entrepreneurs is because we spend too much time worrying about if we look like someone else, if we're trying to accomplish what they're accomplishing. I think when the times that I did feel frustrated or I did feel overwhelmed, it was because I was looking at everyone else's success markers and I was looking to make my life match their success markers and feeling almost a little ashamed if I didn't do something the way another entrepreneur did it. Like if I didn't have this sophisticated funnel, or if I wasn't running ads, or if I wasn't at all these different conferences showing up and being able to say X, Y, and Z. Honestly, it's the mental game that is harder than the actual work. And I think that if you can have peace with whatever you decided is most important for you in your entrepreneurship journey, you are winning. If you have decided that, you know what, this is the amount that I want to make, this is how much time I actually want to spend doing it, these are the kind of clients that I want to work with, this is the service that I desire to have, then you're winning. There is nothing else that you need to do. You don't have to try to make your business like someone else's. I think the third thing that I would say, if I was to wrap this up, is that not being afraid to speak about who you are and what you do online, if that is where your primary audience is going to be. So I've always been a public speaker, trainer, all of that. I think that there was a part of me that felt self-conscious about being an entrepreneur and sharing online as often as I do, or with as much depth that I do right now. And I think it was all of the thoughts that come with, oh, I don't want to be seen as someone that's just selling, or I don't want to come across as if I don't know something. And here's the thing, you're not going to know everything. Get over the fact that you're not going to know everything. People seem like their content is so dope and, oh my goodness, they're so well educated, they know a lot of things, and they do, but that does not take away from what you know and what you bring to the table. And at the end of the day, there are going to be people that are attracted to you and they only want to work with someone with your story, your background. And so that was encouraging to me. It's not my job to win the whole economy. It's not my job to win everyone as my client. I actually don't want to work with everyone, and everyone doesn't want to work with me, and that's actually okay. But there are people that I think are earmarked for the type of person that you are and what you have to bring. And when I had that revelation, I became way less intimidated with feeling about telling my story or living out what I feel like is most important to me in terms of sharing online. So what I've learned so far in this year is it's not that hard. It's only hard when you don't think about what you actually need to feel safe to take the leap. So one thing that I think is the most important is financially. What do you think is going to be the best bet for you? If you financially feel secure, then it's really easy for you to jump, your full-time job and go into entrepreneurship. If your financial situation is sketchy, then I would keep my financial situation not sketchy and work in my entrepreneurship endeavors on the side until I have been able to sell enough to prove that, hey, you know what, it's good enough for me to leave. The other part is to define your success for yourself versus following other people's success and feeling like you have to do what they did. Being able to be confident in what you bring to the table and what it is that you desire to do, and that can help you feel less intimidated and being able to really create a business that's aligned with how you want to live. Like, I do not work 40 hours a week. I don't work 30 hours a week. I'm working on getting to like 10 or 15, but life has been way slower for me in the best way possible. I've been able to be more present with friends and family. I have been able to do more to take care of myself. I've actually shared this in a previous video, that I healed myself from high blood pressure because not only did I get rid of the stress from working full time and all that came with it, but I also did the work to change my diet so that I'm eating in a way that is more healthy for my body. And I've also been able to work out more, which has also been beneficial to my health as well. And so I've gotten so many health benefits, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, from being able to leave my full-time job, not just because of leaving it. I actually loved the work that I was doing, but how many of us love the work that we're doing and we find ourselves loving the work that we're doing and on the inside still being stressed out by it? And if we find ourselves loving what we're doing and we're finding ourselves stressed out by the work that we're doing, there has to be a shift. There has to be something that changes. And what I love to do is to help high achieving women that are very similar to me, that are high achieving, that may be working through people pleasing. I'm a recovering people pleaser and wanting to not only have a successful professional life, but you want a successful personal life, and you want to be able to live a softer life. And a softer life meaning taking care of you, doing the things that light you up, the things that make you feel good about yourself. I feel like this is the time in my life that I've felt the most that I'm living life on my terms. I recently said no to a six-figure opportunity. I think I shared this in a previous video. If not, it was probably a LinkedIn post. But I recently shared that I let go of a six-figure opportunity. So it was a six-figure opportunity that I think would have been a great opportunity, a contract to do work that I enjoy doing, but it would have had me stretching myself and my capacity in a way that I wasn't willing to do. And I know that it can feel like a great amount of money, especially depending on what you have going on in your life. It feels like, yes, let's do it. But I would have sold myself to something that would have burnt me out, essentially. And so I said no to it. And it felt so good to be able to stand in my boundaries and stand in my priorities and know that there is an abundance of opportunities in this world, and that I'm making myself available for the abundance of opportunities that line up with my life. And I don't have to have, say yes to the thirst trap. I don't have to be thirsty for every opportunity that comes across my table. Now, I have been that before. I have been like, yes, I'm saying yes, or I'm going to lower my price, or I'm going to do this even though I don't feel like it's equitable because I need the money, or I want people to think that I'm a go-getter and all the things, right? That was like in that people-pleasing mode and in that scarcity mode. The one thing that I've definitely learned over the last year is that ridding yourself from scarcity, ridding yourself of the people-pleasing, ridding yourself of not feeling like you're enough and overachieving while martyring yourself to your own demise is not worth it. I have definitely unlearned, right, to people please. And if I ever feel like it's creeping up, I'm like, okay, Des, I feel you doing this because you think you need to do this, or you're doing the most and it's really not necessary. Being able to learn when in my body, when I'm doing that and I'm acting in ways where I'm actually doing something that is against what is aligned to my most healthy self, that has been something that I have learned over the last year, and it has been priceless. Think about how many of us are like living on autopilot. You know what I mean? Have you ever like lived on autopilot? Like every day you are like living and you don't even realize how stressed you are, or you don't even realize how much you're doing things just because people are asking you, but you don't really want to do it, or you don't feel good about saying yes about it. I'm sure that is many of you that are watching or are watching the video recorded, that, you do things and we don't even think about it. We just do it. And because of that, we don't realize how much stress we end up causing ourselves emotionally and even physically. Like I was hiding so much stress in my body. I had so many like aches and pains. And I was trying to figure out like, why is this? Like I've never been that person. I'm in my 40s. I never was that person that felt like I was hurting all the time or all the things, because I've always been active. But I was like stressed, like my shoulder, my back was hurting, like my knees was bothering me and all the things. And it's like, it was stress. And I know a lot of it was caused from really not listening to my body and being on automatic. And I was on automatic so much, I didn't even think I was just stressed out. I just thought I was having a fast-paced life. Until, like I said, went to the doctor and they like, yo, you have high blood pressure. I'm like, what? not me. I don't have high blood pressure. And that was kind of like that flashing warning sign, like, okay, Desiree, you need to get it together. And that was the month when my doctor said that was the month that I told, my previous employer, like, hey, I'm going to be leaving in a few months because I knew that one of the biggest things that causes high blood pressure is stress. And that was the biggest stressor, even though it was something that I love. And so sometimes we love things and it can cause us great stress. I'm not saying you need to leave everything that you love, but you do need to consider what boundaries need to be in place and what internal work you need to do so that it's not causing stress and you're not covering the stress up. Because I definitely was dismissing it, like literally minimizing the stress that I was feeling instead of putting it somewhere and actually being able to process it. Because it was stressful to travel to different states, different cities, sometimes different countries to speak and to do the work and then come back home and only home for a few days. Or when I am home, I'm so tired from just the jet lag and all of that it's hard for me to really show up. But I had normalized it. I literally was living this life for about 5.5 years. And for me, it just felt normal. And there was a part of it that was exciting. If you are someone like me that's like in the hustle bustle, you're always a mover, it's an element of excitement about it. Like, yes, I get to do all these things. But I would find myself sometimes in my hotel room, like crying before I have to like go to speak somewhere or go. And not because I'm nervous or what have you, but I was so tired. It almost felt like, how you have a kid or a toddler and they're tired, they're crying because they're tired. It's not even that anybody did anything to them. They're like crying and you're like, oh, my poor baby is just tired. It was like, I was tired. I didn't know how else to react other than tears because I still had to go to work and I still had to perform. And the way I'm being right now is how I had to actually show up because I was a speaker and trainer and consultant. And so I still had to show up in my best self. And so a lot of times we may not be crying, we may not be screaming, we may not be writing it out, but we may be, holding that stress in. And as a result, it's become normal to us. So we're almost like zombies, doing our everyday life and not realizing how much it's really taking a toll on us. And so that doesn't mean you have to leave something that you love or quit your job or anything like that. But I want to encourage you to consider what are the excuses that you feel like you are making versus changing your life. What excuses do you feel like you're making versus changing your life? Like I felt like I was telling myself like, oh, I'm not that stressed. It's just, it's just busy right now. Like it'll be fine. I'm excusing it as like, oh, well, this is just the nature of the job. And that doesn't mean I have to live like this, right? And so sometimes we can advocate for our excuses versus acknowledging that, it's an excuse. And what we really can do is get really quiet with ourselves and ask ourselves, what do we need to shift right now? What really needs to shift, as hard as it may be? Like I literally did not want to tell my job I was leaving because I love my job. I love the people I worked with. It almost felt like I was letting down the team. It felt like I wasn't being a go-getter. I almost felt like a failure because it was something that I was doing seemingly effortlessly to most of the people that I knew. And so to be able to say no to it almost felt like, well, does this mean I'm a failure? And I had to tell myself like, that's right, girl, you've been doing this for a long time. Even if you never kept doing this, this does not equate to who you are. And so what I've learned on this entrepreneurship journey is that you are enough. Enoughness has been like a big thing that I have been talking to with my clients. It's something that I have really worked with myself. When you are high achieving and it comes down to, even in grade school, right? Or when we're in school, we're looking for the gold sticker. We're looking for the gold star. We're looking for all the things to tell us that, yes, you did amazing. Or we look for cues from people that we love, cues from our parents. And so some of it is like so childhood, rearing experience, whatever, not childhood rearing, but you know what I mean, right? Some of it has come from childhood. That we end up, looking for all those cues. And so it comes into our adult life and I'm like looking for the cues. And so I'm at work and I'm like too afraid to say like, I'm tired and I want to stop working. And then the other part is like, if we have been accustomed to people pleasing, then we also don't want to disappoint the people in fear of not being liked or in fear of there being some kind of retaliation for us not doing something that is aligned to what someone else wants. And so I had to acknowledge that I was, suffering from doing too much people pleasing and just this hyper achieving. So I'm also a positive intelligence coach, and so I do a lot of work around saboteurs, and those are those sabotaging tendencies that our mind can typically use when we are like living in negative emotions. And my negative emotions that I was living in was like just this shame and guilt of saying no, this shame and guilt of not being able to be this A-star player all the time, and what that could look like to my self-image, or what other people would look at me for as a result. And so I had to really take the time to sit with myself around that and realize like those are the things that are keeping me from doing it, but at what price? And the price was my health. The price was my well-being. And the price was, it was still a cap on my income. Let's not forget about that. It was so funny because I get real regular on these lives. So, it was really funny to me because in the year before I left my full-time job, like I said, I made $79,000 in my side business with, consulting and coaching and, contracts and such. And I was saying to myself, like, the bonuses at my job were not like bad. They were still really good, but they wasn't 79,000, at least not where I was at. And I was like, I just created my own bonus that was like 30 times almost what I would have gotten as a bonus at work. And to work where I was working, the way I was working, I would have had to work mad hours, you all. Like I would have had to do way more, and to make the amount that I made on the side, I barely spent 100 hours of last year, maybe 150 hours of last year in a whole year to make that. I was like, why am I doing this to myself? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I could live life way easier. And so I think that it is something to be said when we sometimes, allow life to continue to be on this hamster wheel, and we're just not, we're not sitting slow enough to be like, you know what? The math isn't mathing. The time that I'm spending in this and the return on the investment of time that I'm spending on this is not helping me feel well. It's not giving me the income that I desire. And now it's just not, just overall, it's just not doing what it used to do now that I know too much, right? And I feel like I knew too much. I was in so many different masterminds and business programs and all the things, and learning about how many people were working less and making more. And I'm just like, what am I doing? And so I just want to, encourage you to, ask yourself, okay, am I staying in the space that I'm in because I'm worried about what people think? Am I worried about rejection? Am I caught up in like this false sense of loyalty? Especially when I feel I'm like Generation X / millennial. I'm right in the middle. I'm an 80s baby. And so like, I feel that sometimes we can feel like we're too caught up in being loyal to companies and such. And there's nothing wrong with loyalty. I think sometimes, especially now, it can be jaded about loyalty. I think that it's good to be loyal. I don't think it's wrong to be loyal, but I don't think we need to be loyal to our own demise. And so I think that is what is most important. And so sometimes it's like, oh, should I leave or should I do another year? Because I don't want them to be disappointed, or I don't want them to have to whatever. And I mean, we all know this, so I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but companies do what they have to do for themselves all the time. I mean, honestly, people straight up pass away. Unfortunately, like I've experienced coworkers passing away, and we mourn them, and they hire someone else. And so sometimes we think we're doing people a favor by sticking around. But at the end of the day, they will hire somebody else. They'll be fine. As much as you care about them, they will be fine, And so I think that we need to consider, what is it that we desire? If I didn't learn anything else in this last year, and I think this will be the last thing that I say, if I didn't learn anything else this last year, what I did learn is that I'm not waiting one more day, one more minute, one more month, one more year to have the life I desire to have. Period. Put a period on that. I'm not waiting one more day, one more minute, one more month, one more year to have what I desire to have. And so as you are entering into this next season, I want to encourage you to decide. You get to decide the life that you desire to live. Every day is a decision to either live that life, and every day is a decision to not live that life. Every action you decide to take or not to take is either aligned with the life you say you want or the life that you say you don't want. You are the deciding factor. No one else is that excuse. I don't care what is going on in your life. And I mean that I'm an empath. I'm a feeler. Like, I mean that with all of my heart. It don't matter what you got going on. There is no such thing as perfect conditions. There will never be a time in your life that is going to feel okay. It's never going to feel like the right time, ever. Sometimes it does. So I say that with an asterisk because I don't like to live in like the never sometimes. There's an asterisk. Sometimes there is like, ooh, this is the perfect window. Let me go do this. But I'm saying this to help us because most times it is not the perfect window. It's always going to be something that our mind comes up with that says, ooh, well, if you do it now, then this, right? And so we have to decide. So again, this is not a video to tell you you have to quit your job. And this is not a video that says you have to start the business. This is a video that says, what is the life that you desire to live? What is it? What is the life that you desire to live? If it is to leave the job, ask yourself, what is stopping you? And then do the things that are aligned with the answer to that question. If it is to start the business, what is stopping you? And do the answers that are aligned to that, right? What would be your dream way of living? And do the things that are aligned to that dream. That's what you get to do, and that's what I learned. If I would know then what I know now, I would have made this decision a long time ago. Because if I'm honest with myself, even though I took that year to make the money in my side business, if I would have decided, like internally and intentionally decided that this is what I was gonna do, I would have made that money a long time ago. Period. I would have made that money a long time ago because when you decide to do something, it just happens. The reason I didn't make that $79,000 in my personal business, 2, 3, 4 years ago, because I hadn't decided. I was spending too much time questioning myself. I was spending too much time in the weeds of everything in the online streets. It's a blessing and a curse that we have access to so much information, but because of that, we are less inclined to trust ourselves and less inclined to make decisions. And so I think that I was questioning myself so much just because I did not see the return or the results in my actions like that. And it's interesting because I have a 20-year-old nonprofit dance company, and I wasn't like that with that business. I started that when I was 23. And in that business, every day I wasn't like, oh my goodness, why haven't we made this much in our business? I wasn't like that at all. It was just the thrill of starting something, and every day it brought something new. We were learning, we were growing. And I don't know where at some point I thought that shift changed. Like, okay, all because I've had a business before and I've worked and I have all this experience, things should happen quicker. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe this is just a way for me to learn not to be so needing constant edification or gratification. That's the word, not edification. Constant gratification. Maybe this was just a way for me to learn to things take time to grow, and that's okay. They can go faster, but we are the determining factor sometimes on how fast it goes. And a lot of it is because we have internally not decided that we get to be wealthy. We get to have more free time. We get to have a business that we enjoy. We get to work with amazing people. Sometimes we just have decided that we are flooded with all the things that people that don't believe that say. And that is what ends up holding us back. So if this was anything helpful to you, please like, please share all the things, please comment. I would love to know what questions you have. I would love to know what other things you would enjoy hearing from me, because I want to be able to keep cultivating my Get Your Life community. If you want to do more work with me, you can go to my website, www.desireecocroft.com, and you can join my newsletter. I love helping higher achieving women leaders and entrepreneurs, and I am cooking up something special for my Get Your Life community, because I will be doing something in January, and I've had a class already called Identity Shift that has been amazing, and so that is still open if you're interested in that as well. But feel free to join my community, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.